Tonight we depart on our great voyage, for tomorrow will come the full moon and Madame Pele's wrath. Deep into the night, while the island slept, the loading of the boats began. It took 3 hours to get 3,000 MENEHUNI, 15 members of the royal court and their families ready for the mass exodus. Now the only thing left to be done was in the hands of Louis. All was very still as he held the pearl of Kahala above him. It shimmered once, and everyone there in its presence became invisible. They did not speak a single word, not one of them. Louis gave the signal, and it began. With every incoming wave, they made ready. With every outgoing wave, the boats were launched out to sea, 100 at a time. And through all of this activity, the only sounds that could be heard were the sounds of the waves upon the shore and the winds through the palm trees. In a few hours it will be sunrise. The day of the full moon and the sacrifice had come. Even Madame Pele awoke early and was already putting on quite a show as the earth trembled. Then standing on the highest peak of the volcano, she looked down into the valley below, and as the clouds parted in the moonlight, she saw the stone wall. They will keep the child from me with a wall? They will keep the child from me with a wall? I don't think so. I will take all of the villages. No wall will hold me back. Then Pele began pouring tons and tons of lava into the valley below. When it came to the stone wall and stopped, she poured in more lava. Through all of this, the god Maui looked down in great anger upon Pele. For this you will be punished. You have disobeyed me. Very soon it will be morning, and all of the MENEHUNIs must be under cover of the sun. One would dread to think of what would happen to a MENEHUNI in the blazing sunlight. During the day, they would sleep and leave the sailings to the humans, and at night they would steer while the humans rested. And just as the mermaid Queen Liana had promised, there was an escort of hundreds of dolphins waiting to guide them over the reef. At first it was easy, so we thought. Then we heard the sounds of the thundering waves crashing upon the rocks. "It's the reef!" they cried out in fear. Only the humans and a small number of MENEHUNI had been this far out before. The MENEHUNI were terrified, and the journey had just only begun. Louder as they approached the reef. There they were tossed from one side to the next, then crossed over the reef. Once over the reef, the crashing waves faded in the distance. We could not use our paddles or sails, for we were not far enough out to sea yet and could still be heard. Apart from the waves on the now distant reef, the sea was very calm. The dolphin escort had left after bringing us safely over the reef, and we were now sitting on a carpet of seaweed. "I have been many times over this reef, and I never seen anything like this before," said one of the humans in a whisper. He reached over the side of the boat into the water and, grabbing a handful of this seaweed, pulled at it. "Oh!" said a voice. Looking closely into the water, he saw the seaweed was really the hair of mermaids. There were too many to count, and they were all extremely beautiful. And without a sound, they pulled the boats out to open sea. We could still see the volcano erupting violently in the glowing, now distant island. Louis thought to himself, "I wonder if she knows yet." Then suddenly, without warning, the entire island lit up and faded into the darkness under the waves. On the first week at sea, the weather was mostly cloudy, so we were not under the mats that often. On the 19th day, after being awakened suddenly by a strange dream, I commanded that everything be tied down, when from out of the clouds there came a spinning wind which seemed to be sucking up the whole ocean. The Menehuni who were not tied down to anything panicked and were washed overboard. Others simply went mad and jumped in after them. Then all at once, the boats all seemed to move in a straight line as if being guided by someone or something under the water who brought them all to safety. On the 13th day of the second month, all was calm when we were attacked from every side by vicious barracuda and sharks. They came at us from everywhere. Some were even flying over the outriggers and grabbing Menehunis and taking them under. I could only watch in horror as my people were eaten by the barracuda and the gray sharks who now circled. When they had finished with one group of boats, they moved on to the next. Then a voice called out to me in the wind, "The pearl will help you." And it did, for when I held it aloft, it terrified the barracuda and the sharks, and they retreated. All except a very large barracuda who just stayed there watching me. But how could he see me? We were all invisible. Then he came straight at me, jumping over the boat and knocking the pearl from my hands into the ocean. Then, in the next moment, we were no longer invisible. Yes, I, Louis, was also afraid. I think these are spies of Pele and Takatui. Early in the morning of the last day of the third month, we were awakened by the sounds of waves crashing upon the rocks. We rocked from side to side, then a big wave pushed us effortlessly over the reef into a peaceful lagoon as the sun was rising. This was our new home.